Hi folks, thanks for watching my monologue. As you may have heard, there's been a recent run on guns and ammunition. I just wanted to let you know that Guns Etc. is in a 10,200 square foot building which holds a lot of guns. So Guns Etc. is open and has a lot of product. Or you can go to gunsetc.com, that's gunsetc.com, and if you like my monologue, please subscribe to our channel using 960 The Patriot. Well, welcome back and happy April 29th, 2020. I was honored and privileged to be part of a political webinar earlier today where I was asked to speak on a theme I touch on here and there. I was asked to speak on the forces of composition versus the forces of decomposition, and I thought I might share some of that with you. I wrote it down after I said it. Before I do that, though, I'll just illustrate the kind of thing I mean when I do speak on these issues. In the ancient book of Jewish law and wisdom, the Talmud, there's a fetching lesson that every good community is held up by what are known as righteous people, hidden righteous people. They tend to be secret. They don't even know who they are. But they are such good people, such righteous people, that because of them the world is secured. Your community is vouchsafed. I was thinking about that concept and notion in the context of our times. Are people blasting their megaphones? Are they stirring frenzy? Or are they calmly trying to provide perspective and, even more importantly, help? We can think of first responders, to be sure, which now include doctors and nurses and hospital staff, but not those who have become activists, raising alarms and excursions, rather those lending expertise, perspective, and calm. That, I think, you tell me, is much more valuable right now, expertise, perspective, and calm, than their opposite. Those, to me, right now are the righteous people keeping our community together, the heroes. And ironically enough, in large part, as I said, first responders. Are you helping or are you frightening and stirring pots? We don't need more of the latter. We do need more of the former. People like that personify forces of composition. That's what composition really means, after all, doesn't it? From the Latin, compositionem, to place together. Think here for just a moment on a great way to think of it through its opposite, through its polar opposite. Rhett Butler's line in Gone with the Wind. What people forget is that it's just as easy to make money building up a community as it is to make money tearing one down. I'm actually not sure about that. I'm not sure that it's easy to make money building up a community. I do know it's easy to make money trying to tear one down. Be wary of that. In thinking, though, about composition and decomposition, maybe a good place to start is in thinking about our children. For me, maybe the two saddest things I ever see are when I see or hear children crying themselves to sleep, or children without a parent's arms to comfort them, or children exploited by sex or drug trafficking, or even more sadly, all those things together. They do tend to breed one another and become a unit of horribles. To me, at least, that's how you measure the greatness of a community. How many children are like that, and what are the forces of decomposition that lead to all these problems? Because when you look at those kinds of body counts, that's really how you measure a community, isn't it? Isn't it? It's not the GDP. It's something more important and bigger than that, because all of those things can lead and lead to, even within the youth community, more crime for the whole community, or what I've taken to calling social destruction. As we get more and more used to decadence, or defining deviancy down, you soon can achieve a devastating and decompositional set of forces for these children, and ultimately for the rest of the community in which they live, which gets me to the other saddest thing I ever see, and that's the failing and falling of once beautiful places. I think a lot about cities I lived in, ones that were once landmarks. Heck, think of San Francisco. Have you visited it in the 1980s, and have you visited it lately? It's living proof of the second law of thermodynamics, that things can putrefy. I think of my friend and journalist Heather MacDonald, who wrote about her visit there in the Wall Street Journal a few months back. For $16, a new customer discount, she did buy enough fentanyl to kill not tens of people, but hundreds of people. $16 for hundreds of lethal doses of that crud. Good places can fail and fall, and as Heather and so many others have documented, it all started with bad criminal justice policy. Believe it or not, there are those, too many, who do not believe in preserving and protecting their communities, but rather in engaging in wide, non-commonsensical experiments. My point, we can become San Francisco. As Heather wrote about her trip there, quote, "The city sends the message relentlessly that drug use is not only acceptable but expected. The health department distributes 4.5 million syringes a year, along with alcohol swabs, vitamin C to dissolve heroin and crack, and instructions on how to tie one's arm for a hit. Officials have installed 17 needle disposal boxes and kiosks throughout the city, signaling to children that drug use is just another normal part of adult life, perhaps like a spotter pot or a trash can. Only 60% of the city's free needles are returned. The rest end up on the sidewalks or in the sewers. Users dig for veins in plain view. At the corner of Hyde Street and Golden Gate Avenue, steps away from the University of California Hastings College of Law, I, Heather writes, was easily able to purchase a 2-gram pellet of fentanyl for $16, that new customer discount. That's hundreds of lethal doses. Public drug use has grown worse since the approval of Proposition 47 there in 2014, the state ballot initiative that downgraded a host of drug and property crimes to misdemeanors. The stories the homeless tell about their lives reveal that something far more complex than a housing shortage is at work. The tales veer from one confused and improbable situation to the next against a backdrop of drug use, petty crime, and chaotic child rearing. There are few policy levers to change this crisis of meaning in American culture. What is certain is that the continuing crusade to normalize drug use, along with the absence of any public encouragement of temperance, will further handicap this unmoored population. Carving out a zone of immunity from the law and bourgeois norms for a perceived victim class destroys the quality of life in a city. As important, that immunity consigns its alleged beneficiaries to lives of self-abasement and marginality. Tolerating street vagrancy is a choice that cities make. For the public good in San Francisco and elsewhere, that choice should be unmade. Close quote. But it's very hard to unmake bad decisions. Look at how hard Trump, for example, labors to unmake the deep state or the welfare state. Look how hard some people work to recreate and re-entrench the welfare state, wanting all of us to be seen as victims or potential victims. Look how many people bow to those siren songs. But we don't have to be that way. H.G. Wells said life is a race between civility and catastrophe. Good education systems, good criminal justice systems, and great people running both put us and keep us on the right direction. They are forces of composition. And it's important to think about who else stands between those choices, that race towards civility or catastrophe. There are people that want us to be San Francisco. There are people that want us to be China. There are people that want us to be Cuba and Venezuela. And they think they can, quote unquote, manage that. It's a management of decline, however. For an experiment, we, perhaps not they, but perhaps they, know how it will turn out. You see it all around you, these kinds of efforts. Don't give in to them, I beg of you. Remember what Aristotle says was the first duty of citizenship, to help preserve a community. Think about what people will do to help take it down, too, all in the name of progress or progressivism. But it turns out, funny thing, the old verities are still true. The old virtues still work best. Responsibility, hard work, honesty. The golden rule, not prejudging motives, giving everyone a fair shake, which I have to say in our unenlightened times means giving everyone the right to be heard and not holding points of view up to a priori ridicule and censorship. Other virtues will include loyalty, faith, and of course courage. Courage, the first virtue, as Aristotle taught. For without that one, none of the others mean much or matter much or can even be attempted. Seems to me just now we could all use a little reminding of all that. And someday, soon I hope, but someday I'm sure a new virtue will need entrenching, and that is the virtue of calm. As that word comes to us from the old French, it means the absence of wind or fire. There are those invested in the billows, and there are those invested in the fire brigade. Let us never again confuse the fire brigade for the fire, shall we? One end of day is a force of composition, and one is a force of decomposition. So I hope I've explained the concept well, or at least, as my sister likes to tell me, well enough. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.